Hello, welcome back to my channel. So a couple days ago, I had the opportunity to have a conversation over Zoom with Steve Donoghue, talking a little bit about my experience on BookTube so far. And one of the paths that our conversation took us down was talking a little bit about the pieces of advice that we both would share with people who were interested in starting their own BookTube channels, but were maybe a little intimidated or didn't quite know where to start or how to begin the process of starting a BookTube channel. And we talked about some really interesting tips and pieces of advice, and I thought that it might be worth turning that into a video for my channel. And so I thought that today I would just share a couple of the pieces of advice or the things you could possibly consider while starting a BookTube channel that might make it a little bit easier to get going. So the first biggest piece of advice or thought to consider that I could offer you would be you have to just do it. You have to stop thinking about it. You have to stop stressing about it, stop worrying about it, and just sit down and film a video. Because at the end of the day, you will never worry enough, you will never stress enough, you will never have enough preparation in place. And at some point, you just have to throw that all away and just sit down and film your first video. And honestly, I think that is the most daunting part of starting a BookTube channel, is that first video, because you're so in your head about it. So if you can somehow force yourself to just sit down, press record, and film something and post it on your channel, it starts your channel and it starts you with the momentum that you need. And I remember the first video that I ever recorded for my BookTube channel, I'd been thinking about starting a channel for weeks. And one day I just decided that I had thought about it enough. I came home from work one day, I sat down at my desk, I put my phone up on a little phone stand, and I recorded an 8-minute video or something like that with the BookTube newbie tag and posted it on my YouTube channel, and I left it. I walked away from the computer. I walked away from the YouTube studio page. I didn't look at the view count that it got. I didn't look at any of the stats for several days, and I just let it sit there. And it helped me to build the confidence of knowing I have a video out there. I've already, I've jumped the first hurdle, and it really does help. So that would be my first piece of advice, is you have to just record your first video. And it can be super daunting and it can be very intimidating. But once you break through that first barrier of sitting down, talking to the camera, and filming your first video, it gets so much easier and so much less intimidating as you move forward. So that is my first piece of advice. My second piece of advice slash thought to keep in mind or consider would be, don't stress too much about all of the peripherals, all of your gear, your cameras, and your lighting and your background. All of these things are really important, and you do want to have a good visual presentation, and you want your audio to sound good. But at the very beginning, the most important thing is to keep your barrier to entry low. And what I mean by that is, if you have to have this big production every time you want to film a video where you're setting up cameras, you're setting up lighting, you're making sure your background is just right, in the long run, that is going to eat into a lot of your time that could be given over to filming. And you'll know in the back of your head that, or in the back of your mind, that you have this big production that you have to put up every time you want to film. And so I still just use my phone up on the same stand that I used to film my first video, and I don't have any special lighting for filming. I just use the lighting that's naturally on my desk. I don't use any fancy background. I just use my room. I do realize I'm very lucky to have these really nice shelves behind me, but even if you have a bare wall behind you, that's totally fine. All you need to worry about is your presentation to the camera and getting comfortable talking to the camera. And over time, as your channel grows and as you become more defined to yourself as to what type of creator you want to be, you will naturally start adding different pieces that you need to increase your video quality. But it's not something that you really need to stress about at the very beginning. And that's why I want to stress that point of keep the barrier to entry really, really low. Set yourself up for success. Don't set yourself up for failure. If you can keep it really simple, then it's going to be much more, it's going to be, you're going to want to record more, essentially, because you will not have this big production around the whole recording. And I'm not saying don't get a fancy camera, or if you have a fancy setup, don't use it. I'm not saying that. But don't worry at the beginning of, oh, it's not professional enough, I'm just using my phone, or I'm just using my iPad. So many of the fantastic BookTube channels just film on iPhones or on laptops or on iPads. We don't all have super fancy equipment, and you don't need that to be a successful YouTuber, or, well, maybe a YouTuber, but not a BookTuber. Another thing that I would say I think would be really important to keep in mind is, don't feel like you have to hold yourself to one genre or one niche from the very beginning. So feel free to have that variety in your videos, to have if you're an eclectic reader, show that. Show the wide range of reading that you do. And as long as you are inspiring when you talk about what you are reading and you're engaging, your audience will come to you and people will find you. For every video, there is a viewer. And so don't feel that you have to hold to one genre. If the first video you make is about a science fiction novel, don't feel that you've suddenly become a science fiction BookTube channel. That's not true at all. You have complete freedom. Obviously, if you want to hold to one genre, or you want to fill one niche and stay there forever, that's absolutely totally fine as well. But if you are a little bit like me, and at the beginning you're not really sure what you want to do, you're not sure what genre you want to cover, you're not sure what niche you want to fill, it's totally fine to be completely free floating and flexible from the very beginning and just sort of see where your videos take you. As long as you're making videos and you're enjoying the process of making them, the people on the other end are going to enjoy watching them, because it's enjoyable to watch someone who's passionate about what they are talking about. My final piece of advice / thing to consider would be, there's absolutely no pressure if you publish your first video or your first 3 videos or whatever, and you're simply not feeling it. Doing a BookTube channel is not for everyone. Even some people who want to do one might start into the process of doing a BookTube channel and realize that it's not really what they wanted, or it's not fulfilling the need that they wanted it to fulfill. And if that's the case, don't feel bad about pulling content down or stepping away and leaving your content up. There is no contract that you sign, and there are no outward expectations or performance requirements from you or from your channel. At the end of the day, this is just a super fun hobby that we all have, and that we all love doing, and it's a fun thing for us, and it's a way to connect with other readers and for viewers to connect with other creators. There's no pressure whatsoever. So if you feel pressured to do it and you're not enjoying it after a couple videos, let that pressure go away. You're not required to continue as a booktuber once you put up your first video. There's no contract, there's no obligation to continue if you're not enjoying it. However, I would highly recommend that if you're feeling like you want to do a BookTube channel, please do so. It was the greatest thing that I've ever done, and it definitely does have challenges. It can be difficult sometimes to routinely put out content, or to manage your videos, replying to comments, trying to be active. There are times when it feels it's a little complicated, but it is so worth it in the long run, and I would highly recommend that anyone who has the slightest interest in starting a BookTube channel, I would highly recommend that you do try it out, because it is an amazing experience and it's such a welcoming community, and we would absolutely love to have you join us. So that's all I have for today. Thank you so much for watching. I do hope that this was helpful. If you have anything you would like to say, please leave a comment down below, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.